What's up? What's going on, guys? What's up? Welcome to So I Was in This House. And I'm going to be joined today by a gentleman who's very interesting. We had a very good conversation. His name's Seth. And I'm also going to be joined with co-host Thaddeus Tandu. But I would be remiss. I actually, and I didn't say this before and off here because my mind's been kind of full. And my heart's been kind of full, and I'm, I'd be remiss if I did not use this platform in some sort of way to just acknowledge, pray, take a minute and just be sort of, sad, or give whatever energy and love I can give to the people, from this week. In Kerrville, Texas. And it kind of hit home for us because we actually had a friend of a friend whose kid was there, which was crazy. And again, it's an indirect thing. We didn't really know this kid, but it's just it hit so close, and we're only a couple hours away from there. So we're we floated that river. My kids have been on that river during the summertime. We've been out there, and it's just absolutely bonkers. And I'm so sad for these parents, and I'm so sad for these families. And I had to just say that. I also want to say that I know there's been a lot of love and a lot of prayers and a lot of things. I want to stay on what's, I want to focus on what's good. But I've also seen some horrific posts that I can't even wrap my head around, how already we are starting to throw, shade or play partisan politics. It blows my mind. And I have to mention something because I don't care what side of the aisle you stand on. It doesn't matter to me. It's these people are grieving. The last thing we need to be feuding and fighting over funding and faults and et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, I just wanted to take a second. Okay. Now I know that was not very lighthearted. So onwards we go, but I do I do want to bring up our guest here. So Devin Murphy, a friend of mine, actually brought to my attention a gentleman, and we know each other like through Facebook and through social media, but we don't really kind of like know each other. And so we spent a good amount of time talking to each other the other day, and I was really, really interested. He's a fascinating individual. Seth, thank you for coming on with Thaddeus and I. Tell me, who are you? Why are you on this show? Why did you get invited on here? What have you been doing?
Well, I don't know why I got invited, because I don't think I'm all that fascinating, but I guess I'm here because Devin said I was a decent guy,
He said you were more than decent. He said
okay,
you were more. He said you have to speak to this guy.
I will say that he is taller in person than he looks on camera.
That's true. I in this time of Zoom.
Hold on, we can't just glaze over that. Seth, how tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thaddeus, you made it sound like
you seem taller. Like you seem taller. Like I'm 6'1", and like you seem taller than me. Like I thought you were like at least like 6'3".
He is.
Maybe you're just
he's
maybe you work out.
I'm a large individual, Yeah. I work
okay,
out a lot.
So Seth Ure. So tell us why you're here.
Yeah.
Who are you? How did you get started in the trades?
Yeah, that's a bit of a longer story, Like
we have time.
Well, Devin told me the same thing. He's like, you have to talk to Everett. I was like, okay. And I knew, I'd followed you and I'd seen you on Facebook and kind of followed you. And we'd been a bunch of the same industry events. In fact, we might have met in person at one point. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think we might have met at some event somewhere. I don't remember, but we both been in the trades for a long time. So how to get in the trades? Well, I'll try to make this interesting and not drag it out forever,
Please don't.
Yeah, I grew up, didn't have a whole lot of money. We were basically blue collar. So I did anything I possibly could for money. Like if somebody was paying money to do something, I was doing that thing. I didn't care what it was. And I wound up doing a lot of sales, but I hated doing sales. And part of that was because my dad had done sales his whole life and he was not successful. And so we grew up just dirt poor. And so I thought I'm going to go to a crap load of school so I never have to do sales, So I did a law degree, I did an MBA, and I did an LM in Chinese law, right? And so I did all this grad school
You
stuff.
got a degree in Chinese law?
I did, yeah. I lived in Beijing for a year. I've got a degree in Chinese law. And
has any of that translated in practicality sense of like being here in America?
I wish I could say that it did. But the reality is, I haven't set up a whole bunch of wholly foreign owned entities, and I haven't, had to vet a bunch of securities or anything like that from some. When I was there, I was essentially doing foreign direct investment, which is essentially Chinese state-owned industry entities buying foreign actors, right? And they've got just gobs of money, so they were just buying up everybody at the time. And so I was doing all their due diligence basically, and that sounds like glamorous, but the reality is you're a glorified clerk. So I was just reviewing boxes and boxes of documents to see if there was risk or clawbacks or any carve-outs or anything like that. So, so my goal was to be like an international trade lawyer kind of thing. And I moved there with my wife and 2 kids at the time. And my wife hated China. And so I was working, I got my degree from like the Harvard of China, right? Like when I talk to Chinese people, I'm like, oh, I went to Tsinghua. They're like, Tsinghua Di, and Tsinghua's #1. They're all like impressed. And I'm like,
so did you have to learn fluent Chinese or Mandarin?
So yes. So I served a mission, an LDS mission in Hong Kong when I was 19. So I learned Cantonese, and Cantonese is a dialect of Mandarin. And so they're totally different languages. Like if you don't know one, you don't know the other. But when I moved to Beijing, and I studied a little bit before I got there, it was much easier to learn than just like if you were just a straight up white guy moving to Beijing. It's not the same.
So you grew up in Utah?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that where you are now?
Yeah, I'm in northern Utah. Yeah. Yeah. We moved around a bunch. My wife's family was all here. My family's kind of all over the place. So we were in Texas for a long time. In fact,
so you go to be a lawyer.
Uh-huh.
And then you end up in HVAC.
Yeah.
A lawyer in China. Don't forget that part. He was a lawyer in China.
Well, here's the next part of the story, right? So I also had 2 older brothers who were attorneys. And both of them were like, dude, get out of the law. You've got the MBA, abandon the law. You'll be so miserable going to business. You'll be so much happier, you know? And so if they tell you that for like 4 years straight, you're just like, okay, maybe I should abandon the law, you know? And so when I left China, I was kind of like saying goodbye to a dream that I'd been working for so long. And so when I moved back to the US, I was like, screw it, I'll go into business. And so I got recruited by Daikin. And at the time, it was Goodman. So Daikin was acquiring Goodman, and they had an integration team that they were building. And I'd been practicing, you know, cross-border M&A, and this was a cross-border M&A. And so my older brother was a good buddy with the guy who was the COO at the time, Sam Beckman. And somehow they started talking. Sam called me, basically offered on the spot, and I flew out to Houston and took a job at Daikin.
So you know what's interesting about that, by the way. So just a little trivia for you, little conversation at the table, Seth. So it used to be called the Houston Astros played at Minute Maid Park.
Oh, yeah, Minute Maid Park,
and they called it the Juice Box. And this last year, the rights of the ballpark were given up by Daikin. So now it's Daikin Field, and so now they call it the Ice Box.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that part. That's cool.
Yeah. I visited actually right after the acquisition. I visited Houston and I toured, and they were actually building the second largest tilt wall manufacturing company or building.
Yeah.
Is 2 miles around the building, and they centralized all of Daikin and Goodman's manufacturing there. Yeah.
So I was on the project team that built that factory, you know?
Oh, wow.
So I came in for the integration project, and that was, 2013 or something like that. That lasted for about a year, and it was a lot of price book matching. Then I did a whole bunch of stuff in procurement, like foreign direct investment. But what that does, that teach you all of the component parts to go into the HVAC system. And then I worked on the, raw materials, so the steel, the copper, aluminum, all that kind of stuff, and did a lot of the indirect things. So that was more like the manufacturing gases and parts and supplies. And then I got put onto the project where they built the factory out. And so that was a $1 million experience that you wouldn't pay a dime to do again. It was so miserable. You know, there were so many moving parts. Devin needs to stop commenting. Looks like a model. Anyway, that was that project of like setting up an entire factory line, like freaking, you know, what was it, 4.5 million square feet of space? Dude, it was so overwhelming. There's a million things that can go wrong, and they all went wrong. You had to fix all of them. And anyway, long story short, that's how I wound up at Daikin, and did that for a while. I wound up in I lateraled over into the marketing function as senior product manager, managing all the outdoor splits. And so I managed, like $2.5 billion worth of equipment and condensers, heat pumps. And that put me out in front of a lot of contractors and distributors all the time. And I got recruited by EGIA at the time into the financing world. So that's where I really started getting more in contractor shops, talking to contractors, learn everything they do, figuring out how they run their business, helping them to make changes, and, just all the stuff you do when you go visit a contractor. You always walk in thinking, I don't know if I can offer any value here, but I'm here to help. Then you always find a few things where you're like, okay, I can help you with that. Actually, that's, I see a few things you're doing wrong here, So that's the story.
Wow. So you go from manufacturing into HVAC financing.
Yeah.
And from HVAC financing, now you have gone into a new endeavor, which you and I spoke at length about.
Yeah.
And it was in regard to tell everybody.
Yeah. So it's essentially AI to automate the selling process for HVAC contractors, right? And it's just idiot-proofs the process, makes it super simple, takes a lot of the stuff that contractors hate doing or they feel like they're not very good at, and it allows AI just to do all that stuff for you, so the contractor can focus on the stuff that they're good at, which is creating a real relationship with the homeowner and fixing the problem. Most contractors are like the Mr. Fix-Its. They want to go in and solve the problem, and the part that most of them hate is like the sales element, where I feel like I'm pushing something onto you that you might not need. Like a lot of guys really don't love that. If you talk to them, they're like, look, they don't need this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just like, look, you give people options and you do whatever's easiest. You're not pushing people into these things. You're giving them options. Number one reason people don't sell IAQ, they also high efficiency, they don't offer.
Start. So it's called SetSale, correct?
Yeah, it is.
SetSale. Okay. And it's specific
SetSale.ai.
SetSale.ai. Okay. So I'm gonna put
nice
it
website.
up here.
Come from the marketing guy. Nice website. Very clean.
Good. Thank you.
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why don't you do this? Why don't you tell everybody like what makes it different, why people should be using it or whatever. Like, I don't, again, and everybody knows this is not a commercial. I think everybody's very interested in these type of things and very interested. And this goes along with the story, right? Because it's like, if you have a tool like this, how do you adapt this tool into your sales presentation? How do you adapt this tool into bonding and rapport? Like, what do you do? How does it work? Right? Like, does this replace, your traditional sales rep? People could be scared about this. So why don't you go into a little bit of detail about that?
Yeah. Just at a high level, how it works, like all it's trying to do is we want to idiot proof the pricing, presentation, and proposal. So that's what we're focused on. We're not trying to be a CRM or anything like that, but included in that, right? Like, where are the friction points? Okay. Equipment price increases, huge friction point. Like, and we've had a million of them in the last 3 years. Nobody knows it, right? And like, I had a contractor tell me, he's like, look, I'm not so frustrated about the fact that I'm getting a price increase, but what pisses me off is that when I get a price increase, I have to spend 8 to 10 hours in some Excel spreadsheet trying to get it to upload up into Service Titan and like fiddle around with like my calculator for how I do my pricing. That is frustrating. So it's not the fact the price went up, it's the fact that it creates this massive inconvenience for you. So what we do is with our tool, we have a setup process. You take your equipment distributor price list from your distributor, you drag and drop it into the tool. In 30 seconds, the AI reads the entire tool, pulls it in, and builds it into a structured data table. We actually have a global database on the back end that we manage. And so we enrich all of the attributes of that equipment when it comes in. So really all I'm pulling from your price list is your model and your price. I pull the model and price number in about 30 seconds and I enrich all the data in the back end. So in 30 seconds, you now built out your equipment price list. It pulls in all your pricing. And then in about 60 seconds, you set a handful of price drivers. You say, what's my overhead? What's my markup? What's my tax rate? What do I pay my labor on my lead installer, my helper? And, what do I consider a healthy net profit? I set that stuff and boom, and I set my commissions. And now I've basically built pricing for every single job I'm ever going to quote. Because what the AI does.
So not to interrupt you, but like this is, that's the same. You can get almost any software and that does that portion of it, right? I can upload my price book.
You can build an Excel spreadsheet for that.
Yeah. So then what does this do further?
So I'm explaining the setup, right?
Yeah,
so now when you're actually using it, okay, what you do is you go in, you create a quote for a homeowner. You say, hey, this is a 3-ton heat pump. It's a horizontal configuration. It's a C cabinet or whatever the cabinet is if you have space constraints. You hit create. In 5 seconds, what the AI does is it looks at your entire equipment list that you've uploaded. Then it looks at AHRI, the entire database, and it pulls every single matchup that would possibly fit what you just spec'd out. Then it's going to select the 4 best matchups in 4 different options based upon highest C or lowest cost. So it's going to select 4 different tiers. It's going to build out your pricing for all 4 tiers. It's going to build in the install cost. It's going to generate feature sets for each one of the 4 different options that are differentiated from each other. It's going to build in add-on options that can be toggled off and on by the homeowner to add $9 a month or $4 a month or whatever. It's going to build in the financing. It's going to automatically build the exact financing dealer fee directly into the project cost for each one of the different tiers. And then it's going to generate all of that and demonstrate your net profit. So if I'm a salesperson, I take 30 seconds and spec it out, hit create, and in 5 seconds, I've got a 4-option proposal that's complete with all of the best practices that every training you've ever been to is telling you should be doing. And then, so that's what's generated. That's the output, right? And then if I like that, I hit present. That leads me into an AI-driven sales presentation, okay? Visual sells, right? Like visual selling is the way people buy. So like if I'm a comfort advisor and let's say like I'm really comfortable talking, I just use this as a visual selling tool, right? But if I'm a selling tech and I'm not quite as confident, I don't feel like I'm very good at this, I can take my tablet, hit play, and the AI will drive through the entire presentation. It'll read it, it'll walk it through, and it will conclude, the last page of that is the proposal. once the homeowner gets to the proposal, and by the way, you can do it in Spanish, you can do it in other languages.
Is it walking them through in the video? Is it looking more like a slideshow, like PowerPoint?
Yeah.
What does it look like?
It feels a little bit more like a slideshow. It's going to roll through a series of static images, essentially, with a voiceover that explains like SEER and AFUE and, what creates efficiency, cost savings, rebates, those types of things. The different types of outdoor equipment, single stage, 2-stage, variable speed, the benefits of each, that kind of thing. So it's educational in nature. It's designed to build credibility for the contractor, educate the homeowner on why high efficiency is going to be the right selection, and then it gives them the options, right? So if I'm the homeowner, when I get to the proposal, there's a number of things I can do. I can click into, let's say, more information, and it'll pull up the spec sheets and the warranty data and the brochures for each individual piece of equipment that's listed on that proposal. I can also change financing options. And here's what's cool. I want the homeowner to feel that they are building their own system.
Well,
everybody likes to buy.
They can push around.
Exactly. No one wants to be sold, but everybody likes to buy.
Yeah.
So if I'm building my own system, which is what everybody's used to doing, frankly, like you give people options, they build it how they want. So they have the ability to change their financing plans to accommodate the monthly payment that's best for them. They have the ability to toggle off and on any number of add-on options. So it's like, okay, a surge protector for $4 a month. I'm going to turn that on. Okay. UV light for $9 a month. And as you click it, it automatically increases your monthly payment. So they're seeing in real time, okay, if I hit this, my payment goes from 136 to 141. Okay. If I push this one, it goes to 152. Okay. So people upsell themselves. You don't have to sit here and be like, I really think you should get the UV light. No, they say, what's the UV light for $9 a month? That's an antibacterial, anti-germicidal light. What it does is it's going to kill all the bacteria as it's flowing through the home, so that when your kids bring home a sickness, you're not all just rebreathing that for days and days at a time, everybody getting sick. Instead, you're killing it as you circulate the air through the home 2 to 3 times per hour.
Yeah.
People are going to pay $9 for that.
So now, okay. So there are some people who are pretty savvy, right? And I know we want to sell on payment, and that's fine. I mean, it's going to work for 85% of people. Then you're going to get your 15 or 20% of people who are going to be like, dude, I don't want to see this monthly payments toggle. I just want
to see it has offerings at the top. So at the very top, it says installment, cash, same as cash. So they select if they want the 0%, like same as cash offering, they can select the promotion and they can buy that way. If they want to pay in cash, they can select that way, and they don't have to do that thing. So they can buy the way they want to buy based upon, am I financing long-term installment loan? Am I financing same as cash, or am I just paying cash? So it does have that option for them.
I really like that whole thing. When you talked about like, hey, letting the AI run and go and instead of the actual human doing it, what sort of a difference have you seen in terms of the consumer sentiment of being okay with an AI present versus a human present?
Let me answer that with a story. Okay. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sal Khan, but he started a company called Khan Academy, right? So Khan Academy has like over 10,000 courses, 160 million subscribers. It's arguably the most successful online educational course content ever created, right? And Sal Khan is like this double PhD from MIT and Harvard and stuff. He's like freaking ridiculously smart, right? And so he generated all these things. But I watched this TED Talk where he says, when I first started doing this, I did it because I had some nieces and nephews that needed some help with tutoring. So I started recording YouTube videos and just sending it to them, right? And then I found out after a few weeks, they had a bunch of friends over at their house and they were all watching my YouTube videos because he had like a whiteboard, and they were watching my YouTube videos and like doing it all together. And so I said, hey guys, if you want, I can actually drive a couple hours to where you are, get all your friends into our room, and I'll personally walk you through some of this stuff. And they were like, why? He was like, well, I wouldn't that be better? And they said, no, we prefer YouTube you over real you. Because YouTube you, I can slow down, I can reverse, I can pause it, I can think, I can go back and make you say that thing one more time. Real you gets impatient when I do that. And so one of the things you find is that people don't get pissed off at technology when it works correctly, right? If it gives me what I want and I can kind of move at my own pace, you think about like, if somebody goes to buy a Ford truck, what's that process? I select my trim, I select my color, I select my interior, I select my drivetrain, I select my tires. No one's impatient with that because they're building what they want, right? And so when you give people the option to not have to feel like emotional pressure, right? Like the difference when you say people like to buy, but they don't want to be sold, what is the difference between buying and being sold? It's pressure. Do I feel pressure from another individual, a human being? People don't feel pressure when it's just like, hey, here's some options. we're going to give you options and we'll do whatever's easiest for you. And so
I think there's
options.
still a natural inclination which is actually a good thing, when you're sitting in front of somebody and there's a physical technician giving them this and saying, here, go pick it out. Like they are still feeling, it's not as much, but they are still feeling the presence of another person, right? Versus Upfrog, let's say, or some of these, products that are completely
fully remote
online pricing tools, which, by the way, that is, from the marketing perspective, like, holy crap, what a bunch of shit I've been seeing online. It's absolutely fucking terrible. Oh, it's fucking horrible, bro. Like, I mean,
different topic for a different day. Let's get rolling on
that. It was so. It's like, do you really want to know what HVAC systems cost? Click right here and price it online. And I'm like, it's like some woman in like some place that you don't even know. I'm like, what? Next. I'm like, I can't even believe. I'm like, does this really work? But anyway, to go back to what you were saying, Seth, I think that there is like a positive amount of influence that person can have because of their presence being there versus completely not being there. But to me, it may seem like, the thing that many business owners will want to go towards is, how can I avoid having anyone in the house at this time? And I'm not saying where there's a diagnosis. I'm saying from a free estimate, they called, they Googled, whatever they were looking for a system, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think that we're going to see a number of different trends emerging, and different people will have success with different trends. So like with this tool, to your point, having a person sitting there, I think that's actually a positive thing. Like a tiny amount of pressure right there is actually positive.
Especially a tech.
Exactly. The tech has more credibility than the comfort advisor typically, because he's seen as a Mr. Fix-It. He's viewed as less of a salesperson, right? So one of the benefits of this, though, is that, you are empowering selling techs to be much more effective at closing, and so if I can, if I'm a contractor, frankly, I'm looking at this and saying, comfort advisors should be on marketed leads and selling techs should be handling all of what would normally be a tech turnover. Because, candidly, like if I'm empowering them now, everybody has to feel that on their own business. Like, I'm not saying that as a blanket statement, because you do what works. And if that works, that's great. And if it doesn't, don't. But you got to try different things. I do think we are going to see a ton of these huge marketing organizations. We're already kind of seeing it, trying to move to a fully remote HVAC sales process, and I guess I don't know how I feel about that,
I think my prediction is that, while you're thinking, I think my prediction is that it will work in some circumstances in some markets. It will not work in some circumstances in other markets. And that if we are so hubristic and we are so self-centered that we think that we can systemize and process everything and every market's going to be the same. Let me tell you something. I've lived in multiple places in my life, and I can tell you that there are personalities that, live in geographical locations. And I think you can systemize a lot of things. I really do. I think you can, and there's things on back end, you can do it all day long, but I think your front facing is very, very interesting. Case in point, I moved to Texas, and they're selling techs all over the place here that are doing $2, $3, $4 million a year as selling techs. And they're really they're really experienced and really great. You couldn't get one single solitary technician hired in the state of New Jersey right now, where I'm from, to sell anything. Like nothing. Like the mentality is so, and I'm not even kidding you. The largest company there does not let their technicians quote an iota, not one thing, because they're just not good at it. And
well, then let me ask you this: if they're not good at it with something like this, do you think that they would be? Because a lot of times the technicians, they didn't get into it to sell; they got into it to fix and help. So, do you think that having something like this would be able to bridge that gap?
I think that my prediction would be, in a company like that I came from, I think that the technician would probably have some semblance of success because it guides them through and it makes it easy for the homeowner. Totally agree with that. They have like 5 or 6 sales reps there that do like $5 million, $4 million a piece. And I don't think you're going to be able to replace that kind of revenue generation. It just won't happen. I think the part of that comes from expertise, comes from the conversation, and comes from their average tickets being, a whole lot higher. I'm not saying that I'm saying when they're guided by a person to choose super high efficiency, I'm not saying AI can't do that. I'm saying that I give the person the win over the AI in that circumstances, under those circumstances.
I think that depends on the buyer, candidly, because there are a lot of buyers who strongly prefer a digital purchase process, right? In fact, here's an interesting idea. And this goes along with the whole idea that, process friction kills sales, right? So the more friction you have in your process, the lower your close rate's going to be, right? And so candidly, right, like every time a contractor is looking at their sales process, they think to themselves, well, how can we increase our close rate? It's like, look at your process, map the whole thing out, and remove anything you possibly can that makes it easier for your sales rep and for the homeowner to say yes. Okay. So process friction kills sales.
Yeah. So removing resistance, and I'll tell you, I've and this is not new, but I do have someone who's been on the podcast, so you probably know him. He runs a training organization. His name is Doug Wyatt, and he talks a lot about removing friction from the sales process, right?
Yeah.
100%. And I don't disagree with this. I want to read this comment from Jeremy Wade, and then you can definitely address it. I'm still a firm believer that the personal interaction and comfort a homeowner receives when making such an uncomfortable purchase like an HVAC system far trumps purchasing off an app or website.
I agree 100%.
I just commented on that too, that it literally would be companies need to at least put a range of pricing online, but that in-person thing I was going to say it earlier is the differentiating factor is going to win.
Yeah.
And SetSale isn't intended to eliminate the human element of it at all.
No.
What SetSale is just there to essentially use AI to enhance the employees you already have, right? Like make it way easier for them.
It's like making Captain America. Like he's still human, right?
Yeah. You just make him special, I was looking this up about the Amazon. So if you remember when Amazon went to one-click purchasing, it used to be 5 clicks to make a purchase, right? They went to 1 click. Do you know how much their sales went up when they went from 5 clicks to 1 click? It was 28% increase.
Yeah.
28% at the scale that Amazon is, at the however many hundreds of billions of dollars they do in commerce, 28% increase by literally moving 4 clicks.
I agree. I agree with this. And I love this tool, and I think that it's going to work. Now, the question is, philosophically, will companies move from a turnover model where the tech finds the problem and then sends the specialist into the house, or will the tech then take it over from there? One of those reasons why a lot of companies do that too is because they believe in specialization, that the guy going out there, like the tech knows how to turn the wrench, knows how to check pressures, but does not know how to do manual J load calculations, does not know how to do duct design, CFM calculations, and all this other stuff, which is the true sales process, unless you're going to wing it, in which case I'd say shame on you. So again,
here's how I answer this, right?
Yeah.
So if you, so in college, I studied economics for a period of time. And one of the things I talk about is game theory. And in game theory, you have something called a dominant strategy. So game theory is essentially saying that life is a game. This whole competitive interface is a game, similar to a video game. And that in much of the time in these interactions, there is a dominant strategy. So if you look at let's say a Nexstar or something like that, what are these best practice groups focused on? They're focused on identifying what is the dominant strategy in this industry. Okay. And there are multiple dominant strategies, right? So this is an example I'm stealing from my friend Trent Lowenstein, at Next Level Pros. So he talks about how, he likes to play Fortnite, and every 3 months, Fortnite will swap out the entire landscape, and everybody has to learn a whole new, gameplay map, right? And so it's on day 1, you look around, you find some perch where you can hide out with a sniper rifle and just pick people off the whole time, and then you can win the game. He's like, but 3 days in, you go to that perch, and there's 7 other guys there, and they're all trying to do the same thing, right? They all found the perch, right? They're all trying to snipe people, and your secret's no longer there, right? And in this world we're living in, we're in a rapidly changing game map, right? AI, all of these things, the PE people coming in, the changes in regulatory stuff, like the map is changing right now. And so what will people do? People will follow the dominant strategy. And in your market, the dominant strategy might be, I'm eliminating comfort advisors from the tech turnover process because that is working for me. And in a different market, that might not be the dominant strategy. So people will follow the money. People are smart. They're going to figure out what's working, what doesn't. I actually think in some markets, there will probably be markets where like the frictionless, no human contact sale might actually work. That's probably a price play, candidly, So, but I think that the dominant strategy is shifting. We've all sort of had this fixed playbook for a lot of years that we've been like, we feel so comfortable and secure as long as I'm like, well, I run the Nexstar process, And this is nothing against Nexstar. Obviously, they're a terrific organization, right? But anytime you feel this sense of like security because you're running a process that you believe is like a tried and true process, it's like you should reevaluate that because the landscape is shifting.
Yeah.
You can even use this with your sales guys too and girls. Like this doesn't necessarily have to be just for selling tech either, right? Like that's
of course. I fully intend comfort advisors are going to use this. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
of course.
But it's a continuous steamroll. I mean, I guess the thing about your tool for AI, right, is I guess the thing is that there's artificial intelligence built in, so there will be like sort of the updates kind of happen, right? So things are kind of happening. Yeah, I see a hybrid world where we're kind of like androids, where you've got this program. I like the concept of it seems to me like a stew or a soup. I just throw all the ingredients in and the pot goes, okay, nope, this is too much, too little, too boom, 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 and then it spits out like a bunch of options. I like that because actually then I can actually spend more time bonding and rapport with that customer. I'm doing less time figuring out and more time like, hey, check it out. Why don't we look at these options here? Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, if you slide this way, you actually eliminate. So I'm definitely warming to this concept and idea.
Let me share
it's like a menu. It's like a menu, ordering off of a menu. People like that, right?
Here's how I think about this, right? And I'm an eternal optimist, right? So I know there's a lot of people who are like AI naysayers and doom, like, oh my gosh, it's going to destroy everything. I don't believe that. I do think there's going to be some collateral damage, right? Every time there's technological change, some people get hurt and some people benefit. But like, there's this quote from T.S. Eliot this is from like 150 years ago, right? But he says, where's the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? And where's the knowledge that we've lost in information? So if you think about this, like we've been on this trajectory as a society, as a world, where we're like diving deeper and deeper into more and more bits of data, right? It was like data-driven decision-making, right? And so we're getting lost in like mountains of information. But the reality is what AI does, what's AI really good at? It's transforming massive amounts of data into actionable information.
Yeah.
So if I let the AI handle the crap that I'm not good at, there's all this information. I mean, how many HI matchups are there? Millions. Okay. How many people could tell you what the pieces of equipment that are in even just their distributor price list are? Nobody. I mean, there's a ton of crap. All the model numbers just changed. Like there's so much freaking information out there. Why would you bother spending all of your time? To your point, Everett, it's like, look, let the AI do all the crap like that. I can focus on the things that matter, which is building a human connection with an individual, finding out what they need, and trying to make sure I'm delivering the highest level of service. So that's the whole idea.
I think it does. I think it does help you. And the more I think about it, the more it is like, now part of it is the strategy of building the options. And I think the slippery slope here is, are you allowing it to do too much where you should intervene and say, actually, I think that, and I guess there's an editing sort of.
Yeah, you have the ability to change it. Yeah. The AI spits out the initial thing. You can change it to whatever you want.
I don't want to interrupt because I think we're in a really good flow right here. But I do have a sponsor, and they've been amazing. They are a major manufacturer / distributor of VRV. They Cooper and Hunter. They've been great. I've been really great. And I got a little video here.
Cooper & Hunter's new peak unit runs efficiently up to 19 SEER 2 with BTU capacity that ranges between 18 to 55,000 for indoor and outdoor units. Compared to a traditional gas furnace, Peak's revolutionary design is ready to step in without a hassle thanks to its adaptive multi-voltage. True high-performance hyper units provide a 100% heating output at -13 degrees. Looking inside the unit, the new M-Coil is highly efficient and provides a better airflow that reflects in a higher static pressure. Our Smart Kit is included, giving you access to control your device from the comfort of your phone. PEAK stands for Powerful, Efficient, Auto Voltage Detection, and Quiet. To learn more, visit our website or talk to your local distributor. Cooper & Hunter, addicted to comfort.
Yeah, big shout out to Cooper Hunter. They've been really cool, and I'm glad that they've gotten some business from this podcast, which has been really cool.
Yeah.
Moving on. So we kind of run down the tool. We've kind of run down what it does. What are some things that you are hearing as feedback from people that you have now demoed or that have tried it?
It's been really interesting, and candidly, it's been mostly positive, right? Like, it's been largely overwhelmingly positive, but we have had a few, it's interesting. I had a guy, head of tech, and he was really old school, right? And so we were talking, he's like, the first, he used it a few times, like, oh my gosh, I love this. I used it 3 times. I made 3 sales. Like, my close rate is 100% right now with this tool. I'm like, sweet, dude. I love hearing that, And then he went to use it on some tool that had like some weird edge cases on it or some project. And it didn't do exactly what he wanted. And some of this was just a user training issue. Like, we hadn't showed him how to do it, but he got frustrated with it, right? So he got frustrated, and that frustration kind of like started festering a little bit over the next few days. So the next time I talked to him, he was like, I don't like how the AI selects everything for me. And I said, well, would you like it if the AI, because he was used to building all of his own quotes, I said, it takes you like 30 minutes to build your quote, right? He said, yeah. I said, would you like it if the AI 100% anticipated exactly what you were going to build and built the entire thing in 5 seconds? And he was like, well, yeah, that'd be cool. And I said, well, the AI is learning from you. The more you use this tool, it's heuristic. It's learning from you, and it will give you more of what you want. So as you make corrections, if it gives you something you don't like and you make edits to that quote, it notes that. And then the next time you generate a similar quote, it's going to lean upon the edits you made in the last one and give you that back. So over time, it's going to get to know you. And so if you use this 10, 15 times, like, that's what's going to happen. Instead of spending 30 minutes, you're going to spend 5 seconds, and it's going to give you exactly what you've selected. And he goes, yeah, that's cool. I would just rather build it myself. I can't, there's nothing I can say to that, right? Like, okay, that's fine. I understand.
Yeah, I think it's just control of the situation.
Change is hard. Yeah. I also think it's identity. People feel like this is what I'm good at. This is something I'm good, and you're taking that away from me. And so I think it can be perceived as a threat. And it's not. It's like, guy, there's so many things you're good at. Building a quote is one of 1,000. Like, soar with your strengths, hone in on stuff you're good. You don't have to work. Like, this is just a tool. AI is there just to freaking make your life easier. So let it make your life easier.
Jeremy said, Seth, we at Standard Supply are sold. Let's reconvene after summer slows so we can actually pitch it when people have time to truly consider it. We're sold, though. So that's really cool. So look at that.
So Everett, you haven't even talked to Seth about what your split of that commission would be on back end sales?
That particular sale is the standard 10% commission.
Okay.
Which you should have no problem with forking over.
Residual perpetual.
I think we have.
What's this?
I think we have a sponsorship slot available.
I'm going to go completely off the board and just ask a random question because it popped into my mind. What is the stupidest deal you've ever done in your life, Seth?
Oh, I have an unrelated one.
That's what I mean. It's a completely.
I've done a lot of stupid deals. Let's just be honest. I was so freaking naive and trusting. Like, out of basically even in college, I swear, dude, I was the most trusting, believing person in the universe until like age 30. And then once I got all the way through law school, and you realize just how many people are just. Yeah, then I almost flipped a little too much. I was like skeptical of everything. I think I've balanced back out now, but like, I believed everybody. And so, this was 2006, and someone's like, oh my gosh, we have this land and it's only 70 grand right now, but we'll flip it in 9 months and sell it for 110 grand, And my wife and I are like, oh, okay, let's do it. We have one little baby at home. Why not risk, a whole bunch of money that we don't really have? But we were sold. We went out and we bought this land. And you guys all know what happened within about 6 months. We bought this, let's see, 3 months before Bear Stearns went out of business, or Lehman Brothers was the first one that went, right? You know? And so as you can imagine, we didn't do very well on that land deal. And we paid on it for like 5 years. And after a while, we're like, let it go. Like, this is never coming back up, you know? So we let it go. It sold at auction for 18 grand, you know? So we bought it 5 years earlier for 70. It was worth $18,000 at that point in time. And, you know, that took like 4 or 5 years for our credit to recover. And that was a very painful but valuable learning experience. Don't be a moron and do something just because someone tells you it's going to go well, you know?
I've actually just finished reading Checklist Manifesto, good book. And at the end, they talk about like there's 3 guys that do investment and they actually created a series of checklists. Probably could have helped you out in that case.
Yeah, that would have been helpful. You know, where were you 25 years ago, Thaddeus? You know,
in 2006, let's see,
or whatever,
drinking
20
a
years
lot of,
ago.
no, at university, there's no way I would have been a reliable, incredible source of information in 2006.
Yeah, for those that don't know what university is, that's Canadian for college.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, we have colleges and universities.
University.
Yeah, university. We put our pinkies up. High tea. Oh wait, wrong country.
Seth, what is? I ask this question on every episode, and it won't change because we're on some kind of crazy, you know, tangent AI episode. But I asked it, so it's what is one experience, customer experience, hopefully, what is one experience that shapes you, that wherever you go, you live with it and you carry it day to day?
We're talking like a professional experience, right?
So I'll give you an example. Most of this are customer experiences. And so like customers that moved you, customers that, you know, you worked with and you're like, wow. So like mine is a woman that really survived through World War II. And she married an American GI, and just her lifelong story. Just like I live with it. I think about it all the time.
I have a story, and it's not a story I'm particularly proud of, although I'm not ashamed of it, you know, but it was a formative experience in my life for sure, you know? So
yeah, tell it.
I told you I grew up with no money. Like I was doing sales through everything. Like I was selling anything. I did phone sales, you know, and at one point in time, this was while I was in college, right? So I was like just trying to pay for college, right? So I was working at this phone sales place, and they were selling something like, what was it? It was a coaching program, how to start like an internet, or I can't remember if it was real estate or an internet business, right? You know, like online internet or real estate coaching type thing, you know? And these were not like inexpensive packages. These things were like started at like $6,500 and went up to like $18,000, you know? And, you know, I'd been sold that this was like, oh my gosh, these people change these people's lives. So they sold me, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. We're selling this stuff, you know? And at one point, like I suddenly had this realization, like, wait a second, what if this is not actually like, what if this is not real? What if I'm actually telling people like stuff that's not true about this business? Like, what if it's just kind of a scam, you know? And I had that realization, and I went into work that day, and I wasn't 100% certain that it was a scam, but I had this really creepy spidey sense, like, holy crap, what am I doing, you know? And I got on the call with this lady. I was talking to her, and she was a Filipino lady, and like so when I was in Hong Kong, I interacted with tons of Filipinos. They're like the nicest, sweetest people alive, you know, just so trusting, like wonderful people, you know? And I'm talking to this Filipino lady, and she's like, okay, I want to do it. I'm going to spend like $13,000. And it just like hit me. I was like, holy crap. I'm about to scam this lady out of $13,000 that she cannot freaking afford. And like all at once, I realized like, this is wrong. This is not this is not the bill of goods I was sold. And I realized like I had been participating in like this, in scamming people out of this money, you know, and it wasn't knowingly, but like in that moment, I was like, you know what, do not buy this and never answer another call from these people when they call you. This is not a good deal for you. Like, please don't ever do this again. I hung up, I stood up, walked out and quit. You know, it's just like, I cannot freaking do this, you know? And so I guess the formational piece is like just a commitment to radical honesty, dude. I'm honest to a fault. Like I want to be so transparent in every conversation I have, because like I just view other people, I don't know, I call it old fashioned, as part of the universal brotherhood of mankind, you know, all children of God. And I can't live with myself. I'm going to treat somebody that way. And so, yeah, I just think about that in every interaction. Like, I do not want to put somebody in a bad situation. I don't want to do something or try to convince them to do something that wouldn't be good for them too. And so, yeah, that was a pretty formational experience. I don't think I've ever shared that before. Actually, it's a good question.
That was a really great story. I really appreciate you sharing that. Ironically, I was in a very similar circumstance some years back, and I accidentally ended up working for a company that was completely a scam, and completely. And the crazy part about it was, one of the people that I sold before realizing this was a scam was my 7th grade history teacher.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah. And she convinced her husband to do it. And I remember them sitting there. I was like 20, 21. And I remember them sitting there, and she's like, just do it, honey, just do it. And he didn't want to. And they did. And hopefully, because it was on a credit card or whatever, they got the money
did
back.
charge off or something.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I guess you were saying it was back in college. I don't know how old you are. You're looking like, I don't know, maybe late 30s, early 40s, something like that. But yeah. But it's kind of funny, because you think about that in the 90s. I mean, if you want to scam people, like, you had to it had to be in a place for the most part, right? Because the internet was, scamming people on the internet was not like, I don't think
it was face-to-face scamming.
Face-to-face scamming.
Person to person.
Pickpocketing. Yeah. What about you, Thaddeus? You ever scam somebody incidentally?
No, I don't. Not in like your guys' sense of like selling something like it. People thought when I was selling Cutco knives that it was a scam.
The best knives in the world.
Cutcos are great knives. They really are.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, as a 19, 20-year-old, I couldn't really understand paying $1,200 for a set of knives. Like, that was a lot of beer money for me at the time. But now that I have a set, like, I love my Cutco knives. And we bought a travel trailer, and I literally went, and I have an old box with a whole bunch of old Cutco knives in there. Some of them I sold, some of them I kept. I literally pulled out some Cutco knives and put into our travel trailer, because I just hate shitty knives.
Yeah. Ironically, and talking about, like, so my buddy, like, literally my best friend, like, he sold Cutco knives as well, and he has a set from when he sold them from 20 years ago, and one of them was dull, and Cutco has a thing where you could send it to them and they'll sharpen it for you and they'll send it back.
Forever guarantee.
Well, he called and they said, sure, send us knife, blah blah blah. Well, guess what? They were like, nah, this is old. They just sent him a new knife. It was the chef knife too. So it was like a $250 knife. And they were like, here you go.
They've reduced doing that, but like they used to just like replace knives
like
all the time.
6 months ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So because if they look, because like the handles have evolved and changed, they actually got a wall in like back in like their actual factory. It's only in New York. They've got a wall with all the different types of knives, and like some people send in the wildest ones with the old school ergonomic handles. Like, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But I did think of one. So like, not necessarily a scam, but just people not being aware of terms and conditions in agreements. So I was in the passenger elevator industry, and we had 25-year maintenance agreements. That's like, there was 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. I was like selling so many of these 25-year maintenance agreements.
25-year maintenance agreements for HVAC?
But you think, I know this is for elevators, passenger elevators, but that's the expected life. That's the life expectancy for an elevator, right? Is about that 25 years. So you guarantee it for life, but you also get their money in there. But the problem is that was in the agreement was that there's an escalation clause. Every year you have a price increase. Well, historically, that was like a 9 to 10% price increase. And no cancellation, no termination clause in it. So like some of these businesses, they locked into a maintenance agreement for 25 years with like a 10% increase every single year with no way to get out of it. It's like, holy shit.
Wow. So yeah, we actually came across that the other day where some company gave a 10-year maintenance, 10 years of maintenance up front. And that's like I mean, that's crazy. Like you're gonna now, if the company's like 50 years old, fine, right? Like they've been around a long time. Like you're a 50-year-old company. But if a company is like, 10 years old or whatever it is. So Seth, before we're gonna wrap up here, what's next? Like, what is the next thing? How can people, first of all, how can people get in touch with you? How can they demo the product? How can they look at it? It's SetSale.ai.
SetSale.ai. If you click book a demo, that's going to go take you to my Calendly. You'll book time straight on my calendar.
And you do it human, or you have a robot?
I do it human.
Why don't you have a robot that does your demo?
It's funny. We're actually building that.
Yeah.
So people have the option to like watch. It's so crazy, dude. AI is honestly, it's unfreaking believable. Some of the crap, like so my co-founder is the technologist, right? Yeah, this guy is just unfreaking believable. You come to this guy with a problem, and the solutions they come up with, you're like, that is magic. Like, it's amazing the crap these people come up with. Like, they're so good. But anyway, so yeah, actually, one of the things we're designing right now is, I went in, like, did this like green screen recording, and recorded myself, giving some training basically, And so they're going to take my likeness and my voice and all that stuff, and they're scripting out a training. So you will have the option at some point in the not too distant future, like call it the next 30 days or so, you can either schedule a demo or you can watch a demo right now. And when you click into watch the demo, agentic AI, me, like a version of me that's not me.
It's like a Star Wars hologram where like, help me Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan. Yes, I know.
Help me Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're our only hope. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that and my mind is, even in this conversation, I guess I worked through it, but I do think you can spend more time being human with this tool, which to me is a positive. So book a demo at SetSale.ai. We're not sponsored by you. You haven't paid me anything for this. I don't do sponsored content. Like, everybody knows this. Like, cool. And so the next step right now is you're implementing this in businesses, and it's strictly HVAC, correct? So like, you don't have plumbing.
HVAC.
Okay, strictly HVAC. Very, very, very cool. I got some people I want to get you in touch with too. You can show off the product. That'll be pretty cool. Thaddeus, anything else you got for the betterment of the group here?
No, sorry, I had to pop out there. Had a kid with the problem outside my door, and when they're 4 and they're outside the door, you got to help them out. So, anyways, no, I think AI is leveraging it in smart data sets and in smart ways to be able to go, is a wonderful thing. I mean, you already see this already with things like CXC or Rilla in helping out on that sales side of things. Now, this is the evolution of putting it inside the home to be able to, I love the fact that you're putting the power in the customer's hand. Like, you talk a lot about people, and you look at a company like the New Flat Rate, and they talk about menu pricing, and they put it together and they put it out there. This is essentially what you're doing. And they've had a wildly successful company as a result of putting that in there. But now you're putting it into the hands of the consumer. And I think that's fascinating. I'm curious if you're ever going to look at putting this online, or if you're going to so people can build it online, or if you're going to remove that and just keep it solely for the home.
So I will tell you one of the things that we're building right now, and we have this today, but it's in beta and it's not ready for release. But we have this, which is agentic AI selling. So imagine you're going through the presentation, the AI is driving it, but instead of it just being like a voiceover that's leading you through it, instead the format is more like a chat GPT, where there's a list of suggested questions. And it says, hey, Everett, I'm Seth. I'm going to be your comfort advisor. Let me walk you through this. If you have questions, feel free to ask me those. And so it's leading through. And on the left, there's like actual suggested questions. And the homeowner's like, oh, that's a good question, actually. They click the question. It's like, oh, thanks for asking. That's a good question about energy efficiency. Blah, 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 right? And so this agentic AI process, it's not just like an AI driven. It's a truly agentic AI salesperson that is modeled after thousands of hours of selling content, right? So you understand what works and what doesn't work. And so at the end of the day, you now have this fully baked in agentic AI salesperson, which would be totally optional, right? If you was the contractor,
and this is one of those things where, like, if it's a small company, cool, like maybe you don't have time to get out to your sales calls, you're on service calls, whatever it is.
Sure.
I that's another conversation. we filled this whole hour, which is really cool. I will say,
yeah, sorry, I loaded up a long question or a thread at the tail end.
Josh Crouch says, Everett Lapel, we need to get you some lights, bro. Dude, I have lights, actually. I prefer it dark, so that
Likes to live in the
is
shadows.
correct, yeah. Dude, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, dude. I think that you're going to get a tremendous amount of people that are going to inquire about this, and I wish you a lot of luck, man. I want to get back together with you, see how things are going, do like an update. Thaddeus, bro, thank you so much for joining me again. I love hearing your questions and how you come to the table here. So awesome. Seth, SetSale.ai, Seth Ure, URE on social media. Guys, we have a lot of cool guests coming up. I won't bore you. See you.